Hello everyone, we have to discuss about that मेंस आंसर राइटिंग टेस्ट पेपर 1 10 मार्क्स का है 150 वर्ड्स में लिखना है 3 हावर्स का टाइम है. सेड अ लाइट ऑन द इम्पोर्टेंट ऑफ द स्तूपास एंड डिलेटिंग देयर द आर्किटेक्चर फीचर्स. हाउ डिड आर्किटेक्चर चेंजेस द ड्यूरिंग द मिडिवल्स टाइम ब्रीफली. Briefly discuss in the context of the Islamic influences on the Indian architecture. Question number 3 है, can the mural painting be the considered one of the greatest traditional of the painting of the ancient world. Discuss with examples. Question number 4 है, how is the diversity in India cultures and reflected through its music. Explain. Do you think digital medias and smartphones have affected Indian society negatively? Argue by giving solutions. Question number 6 है, describe any the 4 cultural elements of diversity in India and rate their the relatives and significant in buildings other national identity. Caste system in India is marked by the continued and change includes 10 marks 150 words. Urbanization in India is used to have the acceleration the process of the marginalization suggested step to the minimized negative aspects of the urbanizations. And question number 9 है, to what extent can environment movement be called the social movement trace its the jersey in post independence India. Comparing Western and Indian modern of the seculars to discuss whether the Indian concept of the secularism is the fledged compared to the Western one. Evolution, the contribution of the Jainism and Buddhism in Indian cultures, and what were the changes brought by the Shakti Bhakti and Sufi movement in Indian society. Briefly, the emphasis on the contributed of any to the Bhakti and the Sufi Sant. Explain with example the various styles of the temple architecture in India with a special emphasis on the Dravidian architectures. Question number 14, briefly outline the important features of the various forms of the puppetry in India. What steps have been taken at the different level to the preserve them. What do you understand by the regionalism and does it eventually lead to the decentralization of the power sustainables or yours answers with relevant examples. Question number 16, bring out the reason for the prevalence of child marriages in India. Will the raising of the legal age of the marriage for the children help migrated the issue discussion. Question number 17, discuss the effectiveness of the population control measures in India. Will the decreased population lead to the better standard of living. Critically analysis. Question number 18 है, poverty and the inequality is the problems that the diverse more the attention in India. Discuss their the implementation and suggested how India should address them. Highlighting the major issues and concerning the women in India. Discuss the role of the self-help group and the other women's organization in addressing them. Does globalization equals westernizations to the what the extended has globalization been successful in offering the opportunity and benefits for Indian society. Critically examine. 15 नंबर का क्वेश्चन है, 250 वर्ड में आंसर देना है. Test number 1. Question number 1. Shed a light on the importance of the stupas and deleting their the architecture features. आंसर शीट देख लेते हैं. फीचर्स. इंट्रोडक्शन. A stupa is other hemispherical structures which the symbolized burying mound of the Buddhas. It is rose to the prominent after the advent of Buddhism and peaked during the Ashoka's reign. Stupas involve as the chortans in Tibet and the pagoda in East Asia. Body important of the stupas. Religion important. Release repository in the beginnings. Stupas and were built to the venerate and the safeguard realises and remain of the Buddha sacred places along with the monasteries viharas. Later stupas were included in the chaityas which is players hall. Circumambulation path, an important Buddhist rituals around the path surrounding it. Object of the venerations, it is the believed that the release of the Buddhas and body were the buried within the stupas. Philosophical meditations, it is an important place for meditations. Commemoratives in the Tibetan traditional stupas were built to that celebrated the life event of the Buddhas. Symbolic the stupas and the encapsulate the teachings and ideology of Buddhas. And Dhamek stupas at the Sarnath marks the spot where the Buddha gave his first sermon after the attainings and enlightenment, relieving his the elite-fold path leading to the nirvanas. Historical provided historicals में क्या provided information about the various dynasty who ruled the India. Mauryas, Bharat Sputa, Sachi stupas and Bharhut stup. Satvahanas, Amravati stupas. Architecture, olded stones and sculptures. The stupas at the Sachi. The stupas is the Sachi and the Bahut are one of the oldest stones sculptures of in India, and the gateway torus and where the curve of the stone and doctored with narration sculptures which the Jatkas them the stone was the replaced with wood in the latter stupas. Evidence of anachronism. Buddhas was the depicted only the Thurok symbols in earlier stupas. Inclusion of text in the narrative panels. 8 Bharhut Queen's Maya dreams. Use of marbles and Amravati stupas. Use of marble and Amravati stupas. Dakshila invaders and reveals the stupas and with the bodhisattvas and images Gandhara's influence and the patronage of the Kanishkas and diplomatic stupas reflected the ancient ties between India and the Southeast Asian nation. They will help India implemented its the Act East policy. Architectural features. Anda Methi release or Vedika and Pradakshinath and Cherry, Harmika Yakshi और तोराना. Buddhist stupas. Conclusion. The stupas as architectures and through the religion in character assimilated the seculars and religious. Acha. Religious folks at art, the practices of the past and the traditional of the alliance art. Thus, the contributed aid the development of art in India. Additional detail. Hare Ram. Additional details. The hemispheric mounts and anda. The anda domain safe recalled the mount of the dirt and that was used to cover the Buddha remains, and the earlier stupas contained actuals release of the Buddhas, the release and the chamber buried deep inside. The anda is called the Tavena. Over time, and this the hemispherical mount has taken as on an even grander and symbolic associations. The mountain home of the gods at the center of the universe, a square railings and harmica. The harmica is inspired by other square railing or the fence that surrounded the mount of the dirt, marking it as other secret buried sites. A central pillar supporting other tribes umbrellas forms chetras. The chetras in terms was the derived and from the umbrellas that were the placed over the mount to protect it from the elements. The three circular umbrellas like the disc representations the three jewelers or triantha of the Buddhism, which is the key to other true understandings of the faith. Buddhas, dharmas, Buddhism teachers or religions, laws and the sangha monastic communities around the three core buildings blocked were added. Secondly, features. Enclosure well and with the decorated and gateways. Toranas aid the cardinals and direction the wall. The wall with its trademark and three the horizontal gentle stones were surrounded the entire structures. A circular terrace and methi. The terrace surrounded by other similar three bar railings and supports the anda and raise it off the ground. It likely served as the platforms for the ritual circumambulations. Question number 2. How did architectures change during the medieval times and briefly discuss in context of the Islamic influence on Indian architecture? Introduction. The establishment of the Turkish rule in India marks the beginnings of a new phase in the history of the Indian art and architecture. Their style was significantly different from the traditional Indian architecture style. The fusion of the Persian and Indian styles in the architecture of the following period resulted in the development of the Indo-Islamic architecture or Indo-Saracenic architectures. Medieval architectures. Medieval architecture. Muslim tomb architectures. Palaces, fort, mosque, monumental building, water bodies. Medieval architectures. Basic. Ancient architecture, medieval architecture, arc face designs. Travertine architectures, arcuate architecture, travertine architecture, interest. लिंटेन फ्लैट रूफ होता है एंड लो लाइनिंग ओवर पिलर होते हैं इन द राइट एंगल शेप में. इसमें क्या होता है, आर्क्यूट आर्किटेक्चर्स में आर्क होता है, कोरबेलेड आर्क एंड थ्रू आर्क. The arcuate forms of the constructions was introduced gradually in India. Arches could support the weight of the domes. टॉप पे क्या होता है, ट्रेवेट आर्किटेक्चर और आर्क्यूट आर्किटेक्चर के टॉप में। यूज़ ऑफ द शिकाराज और द विमाना दे आर द जनरली कोनिकल्स कर्विलिनियर। इसके टॉप में क्या होता है, डोम जनरली हेमिस्फेरिक। माइनर्स में क्या होती है, एब्सेंट होती है। माइनर्स वर प्रेजेंट इन द फोर कॉर्नर्स ऑफ द मॉस्क्यूज एंड मॉन्ट फॉर द अजान अनाउंसमेंट। मटेरियल्स में क्या होता है, स्टोन इज द प्राइमरी मटेरियल फॉर ऑल द कंस्ट्रक्शंस। मटेरियल स्टोन, ब्रिक्स एंड लाइम्स एंड मोर्टल्स वाज इंट्रोड्यूस इन द मिडिवल पीरियड। अदर फीचर्स में क्या होता है, other features of the Indo-Islamic architecture, they avoided human representation in their architecture's things and influences on the Hindu and the Jain architectures. They provided spaciness and massiveness and breadth and to the exciting Hindu and the Jain architecture. They provided spaciness, massiveness and the breadth to the exciting Hindu and the Jain architecture. They focused on the decoration through the calligraphy and the Arabic. Arabic is the Beji Tulls pattern, which is the symmetricals and the similars on either side. Arabic. They used various florals and designs and geometrical shapes and patterns to the decorate and buildings intricate and jelly work on the wall. It is the significant jarocas for women and the sunlight to enter inside the shrine. Influences Rajasthani and Sikh architecture. Use of the water mountain and the courtyard and pool on the premise. Introduction of the four garden and the charbagh style. Use of the pitra duras and techniques. Opus textiles and precious and semi-precious stone and colored marbles when inlaid on the wall. Use of four sighting techniques to the create and the influences of 3D used by the Magda's conclusions. Thus medieval architectures and reflected the synthesis of the composite Indian cultures and which developed in the latter period and influenced the local dynasties, and this has the enhanced our rich cultural heritage. Additional detail. Division of medieval Indian architecture period. Slaps dynasty, Mameluke styles. During this period and the remodeling of exciting Hindu sculptures and Qutub Minar was an example of the structure building during this the period, and Khilji dynasty Seljuk styles and the red stones and was used and during this period. Arcued style of architecture first the emerged and modern began to the used as other cementing agent. For example, Alai Darwaja, Shri Fort, etc. Tughlaq dynasty construction work was less as it was the crisis period of the architecture. The water system of construction of wall was introduced where walls were the sloping to give more strength to the building. Tughlaqabad city and Jahanapana city and the Firozabad city, Lodi dynasty. Only tomb were the constructed, however the concept of other double dome was introduced. The double domes gave strength to the structures and lowered the inner height of the buildings, and for example Lodi Gardens, the city of the Agra. Mughal architecture. The Mughal The Mughal were the excellent arts and the architecture supporters. Architectures remains its the prominent under them, as new the structures and such as the Taj Mahal and Buland Darwaza and other were the constructed were with tremendous visions and aesthetic sphere. Question number third. Can mural paintings can be considered and one of the greatest traditions of painting of the ancient world and discussed with example introductions. A murals is the large picture painting or the affixed and directly on the wall or ceilings. The existence of murals paintings in India dates back from the 2nd century BC to the 8th to 10th century AD body. Yes. Murals paintings can be considered one of the greatest traditions of painting. The different period in India gave rise to the different style of the murals painting in India. There are more than 20 locations around India and where the murals were the available. They are mainly found in the natural scapes and rock cut chambers. The paintings and follow them and the most common being Hindu, Buddhism and Jain in India. Show continuity and the Ajantas and cave painting were the depicted by various kingdoms like the Mauryas, Shungas and Vakatakas and the Chalukyas empires. Murals under the Palwas and Pandyas and Chola kings. Palwas paintings aid the Kanchipuram's temples were the patronage by the Palwas king and Raj Simha. Pandya's fragmented layer of the paintings in the Tirumalai and caves and the Jama caves at the Sitan Vashal are some of the surviving examples. Chola paintings are seen in the Nartamalai. The most important are those in the Brihadeshwara's temples. The paintings shows the narrations and aspect related to the Lord Shiva and Shiv in the Kailash, Shiv as the Tripuntaka and Vijayanagara murals. In Hampi, the Biru Paksha temples has paintings that show events from the dynastic historical and episodes from the Ramayans and Mahabharatas. Show social and the religion life. The common themes of the paintings ranges from the Jatakas stories to the life of Buddhas and contemporary event and social life to elaborated decorative stories to the life of the Buddhas and contemporary event and social life to elaborated the decorated native pattern of the floras and fauna. The mural painting in the Ellora caves are related to all the three religions Buddhism, Jainism and Hinduism. So materialism as well as other spiritual aspects, while the Ajantas and other the paintings show religions and sculpture aspects. Bak cave painting are materialistics rather than the scriptures and different styles. Ravan Chaya rock and shelters painting at Iran located in Odisha, show ancient fresco paintings on other rock shelters. Earliest example of the mural painting in the Bhimbetka caves and the Paleolithic, Neolithic and Neolithic period. Unique Kerala's murals. Mathematically and paintings from the Kerala standard apart from most of the narrations and are based on the episodes from the Hindu mythology which were the popular in Kerala. The artist seems to have the derived source from the oral traditions and local versions of the Ramayanas and Mahabharata for painting narrations around the world. Murals date back to the 13,000 BC from the earliest painting in the Chauvet cave in the France. The large numbers of paintings are from the Egyptian tombs and Pompeii in 100 BC and AD 79 Mimimi known places. 1700 and 1600 BC. Fresco painting are the earliest method used. It came from the Italy and come from the word phrase. The Roman well painting dated back to the 3rd century BC can be found in the homes and small residential building from British to Egypt and from the Pannonia, Hungary to Morocco. Mural painting in Egypt. Conclusion. Mural painting is the revolutionaries and proved that the wall and ceilings do not have to clean, and murals are imperative in the world of art because they bring arts to the public and make pupils more aware of art. Additional detail. Ajanta Caves painting, Vijayanagara painting, Badhami cave painting, Roman paintings. How is the diversity? Question number 4. How is the diversity in Indian culture reflected through its music? Explain. Introduction. Indian culture is one of the most ancient culture present in the world, and culture pattern reliefs, religions, variations. There is the immense variety in Indian culture as it is the band of various cultures. Different religion, caste and religion follow their the tradition and culture, and Thus, there is the variation in art, architecture, dance forms, and the theatre forms and music body. Indian cultural diversity inflected through its music regions. Hindustani and Carnatic. In North India, Persia's and Mughals influences began creating the Hindustani music, and whereas the Carnatic music is the comparatively touched and developed on the origin lines. Carnatic Sangeet has developed in the South Indian state of Tamil Nadu and Kerala, Andhra Pradesh and Karnataka. Hindustani music has various Gharanas like the Lucknow, Jaipur, Kiranas, Agra, etc. Carnatic's music has the homogeneous and Hindustani music has other heterogeneous Indian traditional religion. Religion also formed the basic for some forms of music in various parts of India. Dashkathiya music and dance from Odisha mainly told the mythologicals and stories primarily about the Lord Shivas and but also others good as well, and the Bilu and Pattu is the musical storytelling method performed in Tamil Nadu and Kerala. It is the narrated and stories and connected with the local goods and goodness. Sankirtanas folk music in Assam is performed and by the Vaishnavas and committees. Festivals according to the festivals and certain the religions also the developed different music styles. Pai songs from the Madhya Pradesh are sung during the festival especially and that the fell during the rainy seasons. Basant Geet song and are the sung during the Basant Panchami and festival in the Gurhabal region of Uttarakhand. Dance forms have originated and from the different part of India as per the local traditions, and this is the true in the case of the folk dance and which emerge from the local traditions of the respective states and ethnic or geographic regions. Dandiya Ras is other traditional music dance forms in the Gujarat and is associated with the scenes of Holi and the Leela of Krishna's and Radha song of the Chai dance Mizoram. Halim Lao songs are the dancing songs of the Nagalands and Narate and achievement of agri peoples in the past battles and through this the forms of music. Drama and puppetry also included the elements of music to the enhances the audio and visual excellence experience and to the depict and culture richness. Customs and traditional style of the marriage ceremonies and birth ceremonies and vary from the regions to regions in other state and throughout the nation, and this is also reflected in the forms of songs and music that are the performance during such the ceremonies. Obi is other form of music from the Maharashtra and Goa and sung by the women. They are usually written for the marriages and pregnancies and lullabies for children. Banavan is the folk music from the Jammu and Kashmir and sung during wedding ceremonies. Tribal diversities and there's the tradition song in other tribal society are mostly functionals and the often have the sensitivity of other ceremonies right and for the instance the song which accompany the event of the life cycles birth and initiations and marriage and death. Similarly the agriculturals and songs accompany the building, the burning and the preparations of the fields, paintings and transplanting and harvesting, etc. Assam Bihu songs were performed during crops plantations. Conclusion. The great diversity of music in India is other direct manifestations of the diversity and fragmentation of the population in terms of race, religion, language, and other aspects of cultures. Question number 5. Do you think digital media and smartphones have affected Indian society negatively? Argues why giving the status in solutions. Introduction. India will be 1 million smartphones user by the 2026 and with the rural areas during the sale of internet enables phones and according to other Deloitte study and they have enabled the reach of the digital services to the far reaches of country but have also the created the certain negative issues in the society body. Digital media includes software, digital images and digital videos and video games and web pages and websites, social medias, digital data and databases and digital audios and such as the MP3, electricals, documents and electricals books. Negative impact of digital media and the smartphone and social impact. Adult and the children both are the bullied, stalked and the even the kidnapped and using their the social media accounts. Fraud relationships scams occurs the when other criminal adopt a the fake online identity and to gain other victims affections and trust. False idealizations and expectations why the products and follow dieting and do all the famous in influencers activities without giving it a the second thought. Lack of social and emotional skills. The more times you spend looking at other screens and the less times you spend the interacting in persons with the others. This makes it most difficult to establish and the interpersonal connections and strong the relationship. Fake news example more leaching news and which was the spread and through the social medias and young children and the adolescent and addicted to mobile games and social medias etc. Economically impact and unnecessary and the expenditures. Smartphones and have the becomes other status symbols and showings and the iPhones is the considered saving. Online money fraud and thus the include the online scams and spam. Identity theft, the scammers and buying the product and online from users the account without your knowledge, identity and the spoofing. Scam pop up alert and claim the letters scams etc. Physiologicals and impact. Addiction to response and pupils post daily updates and contact on the social medias. If they don't and get as the many likes or comments on theirs the friends, they start feeling useless and the worthless and deciding and once and self the worth on the several like and the comment on the social medias isn't healthy. Fear of missing out, FOMO. Social media is not the always and the accurate and is often and the exaggerated and version of the reality and but the smartphone affects young minds and they get the shoot and into the FOMO concept. Health impact. Concentration difficulties and the exposures to smartphone and the contact and urge to check smartphones and screens and has the resulted in low concentrations and some the games and may help focus student while the playing and increase the mental laziness and children prefer using the mobile phone calculators and even for the small calculations and instead of pen and paper due to the instant access to the smartphones. Additionally, too much smartphone use can the reduce student and thinking process disturbed. Sleeping pattern, sleeping habits as we get the indulged in checking the social medias and feed and the forget and about times. Weak eyesight, thus devices and emits blue lights and which can harms eyesight if started at the screens and for other long time and thus the lights and harms the eye and for other longer duration affect the learning and the comprehensions. And with the advent of the technology and smartphone and we can read anything on the go hands and we no longer carry on the read newspapers, magazines and books etc. Researchers claim that the children and learn better from other printers and textbook than from other digital one. However, there are few positives and impact of digital media and smartphones and impact on education. Smartphones provide a unique way to improve the quality of the education accessible and from any the part of the world. Improves communications and access. In many ways, smartphones and are other great tools to stay in touch with the people. Example, business meeting, events, families and friends and communication help in the emergencies. Smartphones can be the essential tools in the case of and the emergencies and they are other quick and easy way to get in the contact and with the someone if you are in the need of the help. Example, GPS usage and when the standard is in an unknown places. Enables economically activities easy. There are the many and the business and which use more social medias and for the promotions and the earnings and help us the stay organized and with the multitasking and becoming the norms of modern day life and it is the often and becomes the difficult to keep track or of everything. Example, steps and count digitally in a smartphone increase the awareness while the helping us the stay connected and with each others and with the world. And mobile phones help the people to stay update on the political economics and the social issues affecting the world. Example, can cross the check the flash news is yearlist possibles conclusions. It's time to the overcomes and there thus negative effect of smartphones and start livings a less affections life and screens times limitations for both children and kids and more the social gathering and indulging in hobbies are other few methods to the culp smartphone use. Describe question number 6. Describe any four cultural element of diversity in India and rare there the relative significant in building other national identity. Introduction. Diversity Diversity connotates and collectives different among the pupils, and that the different one groups of pupils and from another. India is considered a the mega culturally diverse country, and due to the existence of various groups and that provided a unique blend of India diversity body culture element of the diversity in India. Radial diversity, Harvest and Risley has the classified. Classified the people of India into seven radials and the types, and there are the Turco-Iranian and Indo-Aryan and Scytho-Dravinian and Aryo-Dravinian, Mongo-Dravinian and Mongolide and the Dravinian, and significance in building other nationals' identity. Racial diversity help us the recognitions and respect way of living, and that are not the necessary or abundance, and so that as we the interacted and with the others, and we can build and bridge and to trust and respected and understanding across cultures. And it helped the dispel negative and the stereotypes and the persons and biases about the different groups, and consultants constitutional identity constitutions and guaranteed and certain the fundamentals rights to all the citizens, and regardless of their age and gender, class and caste and religion, etc. It is the promotes and the tolerated and understandings between the different cultures and different festival. The season of the aspiring and harvest in India is now, and by the many names is it is occurred and the Gudi Parmas in Maharashtra and the Goa, and it is the populars as the Baishakhi in North India. The festival is also called also Bihu in Assam, and Yugadi in Karnataka, and the Puthandu in Nadu, significant in building other national identity. National identity festival contribute and the immensely to feeling of the social cohesion. For example, gift distributions during the Diwali and the Ramjan and the Christmas. Many celebration involved and the community elders sharing stories and experience sharing templates for the maintaining unity and among the families. Example storytellings, and during the Navratri the culture exchanges of view of the celebrations and build social relation and social communication, which leads to the unity and among the people. Example, if during the Ramjan and common practices brings other sense of the oneness. For examples, while fasting and the detoxify the body, silence and purified and speeches and building brings rest to the mind, and the meditations takes one deeps and into one being. Help in building tolerance. The existence of the various forms of the diverse cultures in India has made India an example of tolerance. Example, celebrating the Ramjans and the Ganesh and Chaturthi in the same lanes over the road. Indian art form, paintings, theatre performance, folk dances and the theatre sculptures, making fairs, instrumented and music and dances are other few example of Indian art forms and significance in buildings other national identity. Culture and its heritage reflected and the shape values and faith and aspirations, and thereby the defining other national identity of pupils. Artists and often the explores the characteristics and that determine our personal and the social identity. They construct a sense of the who are as the individuals and as other society and over as a the nations. Indian customs and the traditional in marriage, and marriage is the both either social as well as other religious events in India. Different communities and have their own traditionals and the custom of the solemnizing a marriage. Significance in building other national identified. The marriage is other divine unique of the different cultures and the traditional. It is also and the important social institutions. Cultural diversities and example accepted and different and the festivals and food and the customs and from both the grooms and the bride side. Intercaste marriages and inter-religious marriages and its help in the acceptance and the assimilations of different cultures and the identity and which in the terms and help in the building national identity. Language. India is the home and to the large number of the language and that we cannot find in any other countries, and thus the language have the involved and over the centuries, and some are very rare, and this diversity in language and have provided in India was a colorful blends in fundamental unity, and is found in the idea and the themes and expressed in those languages and other cultures elements and Indian cinemas and Indian music, Indian literature, Indian dance. Conclusions. Diversity is very important for the country and like India's. If the unity and existence among the peoples it becomes the imposition possibles and to the distinguishes and the nations and its peoples. This help in maintaining the peace, harmonies and the prosperity in other country. And question number 7, caste system in India is marked by the continuously and change in elucidates. Introduction. Caste can be defined as other hereditary and the endogenous and groups and having other common name and common traditional occupations and commons the cultures and the relatively and rigid in matter of the mobility and the distinctness of status and formings in the single homogeneous community. However, it is not other static social concept and but is marked and by the continuity and changes in the caste system. Traits for the intercaste marriages and purity of the blood and was one of the main and aims of the caste system. As other result and the intercaste marriages and were the socially and the forbiddance due to the economic and the social necessities, and intercaste marriages and on the western lines and are being the performed. It encouraged frequently challenge to the orthodoxy and orthodox practices of the caste system, such as the child marriages, ban on the widows and remarriage, and the insensitiveness of the superior class and towards the low caste pupils, and are the being challenges. New food habits and due to the frequent and mixings of the people at the meeting, conferences, seminars, etc. Food habitat have changes and changes in the occupations and occupational mobility has becomes the new features and living behind, and there the traditional rules and Brahmins and have the becomes and traders, and whereas the Vaishyas and have the joined teaching. And so improvement in the positions and of the lower caste and due to the step and the initiated by the government, the positions of lower caste has the improved and economically as well as the socially in continuity. The following intense and highlighted the continuity and of the caste system. The competitions for the lower caste status and to avoid of the benefits and meant for the depressed and the marginalized and sections of our society by the getting reservations in various fields. Progressive measures of the reservations and the affirmative actions and have the surfaced caste and loyalties and instead of the liquidating and them. Lingayat and movement in Karnataka and the Jat movement. Certain task is done by other particular castes and manuals, and scavenging and task is done and only by the local scavengers caste. Reason for the change in the caste system. Legislative measures. Laws have two important functions, and first to the reinforce and social controls and the second to the bring social change. Untouchability Offence Act 1955 and the SC/ST Act in 1989 and provided for the punishment against the practice of the untouchability. The Hindu Marriage Act and provided for the intercaste marriages. Role of education after the independence and education facilities and were the extended to all the citizens in irrespective of theirs the casteism which the eroded and the legitimacy of the caste systems. Reforms movement, the social and the religious reforms movement have the dominated the Indian scene and the early in the 20th century in the forms of the protest and against the Brahminical supremacy. Industrialization and urbanization. Urbanization produced the social heterogeneity and secondary and the territory occupations and improved the social status and the inscriptions and status losses. It's the important where today people from the upper caste are the working as the subordinated of lower caste. Means of transport and communication. They are the instrument in brings the spirituals and mobility to pupils and pupils traveling by the bus, metro and train and cannot be the discrimination against on the basis of caste. Increase in the importance of wealth. Today, wealth has the replaced and birth as the basic of the social practices. Conclusion. In this, the manners and the caste systems has undergone and many the changes and due to the above process and it has adapted to the new socio-economic condition in India. Urbanizations. Question number 8. Urbanization in India is said to have the accelerations the process of marginalizations and suggested step to the minimize negative aspect of the urbanizations and introductions. Urbanization refer to the populations and shift from the rural to urban areas and the corresponding decrease in rural population and the ways in the which and the society and adapt to this change. The adaptation and hasn't been the smooth and has led to the lack of the access and the opportunity for many the pupils and leading to the marginalizations body. Marginalization occurs when other persons or the groups of the people are less able to do the things or access basic the services or opportunity. It is also the sometimes and refers to as the social exclusions. How has urbanization, acceleration, marginalizations, and there are three types of the marginalization: social marginalizations, caste-based residentials, and the segregations in India. Isolated by the caste and published by the IIM and Bangalore found and 30% of the Delhi neighborhood and 60% of the Kolkata and the 80% of the Rajkot and did not have any the Dalit and the Adivasis. Lack of healthcare and the education. Urban poor are the increasingly and the opting for the private healthcare and due to the insufficient public facilities the availability of urban public health services view the urban primarily health centers and falls far the short of the government and even the norms by the about 40% across the country and the Lokniti CSDS study on the urban poor and shows that the 8% of the school going the children and in the slums are not the enrolled in any the schools. Economically marginalization. Urban housing shortage has rises 54% and to the 29 million in 2018 and from the 18.78 the million in 2012 and 95% of the gap for the low income and household according to the research and papers and by the ICRIER and overflowing the slums and there are the about 13.7 million slums and the household in the country and shelterings are the population of the 65.49 million people across the country and the gotojations are more the focused on the affluences and areas in the urban planning and the infrastructure development. Political marginalizations. lack of political powers and the migrate workers and make up about 35% of the Indian urban population according to the 2020 study by the National Institution of Urban Management and NIUM. They remain uncounted with their the political right and practically and the disenfranchised and non inclusively welfare schemes and the benefits of welfare scheme for the urban poor often and rich only a small part of the intended and the beneficiaries, and many such as the sex workers and the transgender persons and sanitation workers and the domestic home workers face higher challenges of exclusions. Measures to the minimize the negative impact. Employment guarantees and the programs and extendings and the Manregas to urban areas and will create the 50 million jobs, and as per the State of the Working India's 2019 and report by the Ajim and the Premji and University, and improving the access to the health facilities and welfare schemes, accelerating and the efficiency of primarily healthcare facilities and Delhi Mohalla and the clinics and tertiary and care facilities. I'm at the providings and medical facilities in the densely populated locality and have been the quite successful. Optimum utilization of urban lands and the Niti Aayog in its the reforms in urban planning capacity suggest forming other 500 healthy cities and programs and for other period of the 5 years and the involving the spatial planning and the public and the health and the socio-economically development. Remote voting for the internal migration. The Election Commission of India and ECI and has already extended the voting rights and to the non-residential Indian and RIS and the promised and extensions of the postals and ballots and voting rights, and if they are the unavails to travels to their the consultancy, and this has to be the allowed and for the internal and the migrant and to affordables and housing. The working groups by the Niti Aayog and the constituted and to the study material international level has the recommended that the rental housings in the public sector could be the expanded and through the provision of the dormitory and the accommodations, and this the would make and the public housing affordable. The reduce the conflict between the owners and the tenant. Urbanization and provide the urban facilities in the rural areas or the make rural areas smart and the decrease the migrations and to the urban areas. Infrastructure is key to the development of the urban areas, and the government should explore the avenues for increasing the investment in the infrastructures through the combination of public investment PPPs and exclusive private investment, whereas the efficiency. Conclusion: India cities are in the slow but sure the path towards the cities of various kinds, and it is the vital to the reverse the current trend of the segregations and the inequality. Question number 9. To what extent can the environmental movement and be the called other social movement and trace its the journey? And in post-independent India, the environment movement is other type of the social movement, and that the involve in the area of individuals and group and the coalitions that the perceived the common interested in the environment protection and act to the bring about the changes in the environmentals and policies and practices. Environmental movement is other social movement fight for the local rights, and thus the movement are the important for the for the tribals rights, and especially the right of the access to the forest resources, livelihood and the forest Forest resources are either source of the livelihood for the local communities. Environment movement are important to the safeguard their the livelihood and the prevented non-commercial use of the natural resources. Ecological health. Thus, movement are the important for the preventions of land degradations and culture displacement and eco restorations, and constitutes the core themes. And the movement address novel issues like the environmental degradations. Participations. The movement were the massive with the active participations of my marginalizations and group in society, including the tribals women's strategy. Adopted non-violence and socio-included strategy. Pressures on the government. Many of the new environmentals and movement forces the government to take the affirmative policies in the form of the new laws and provisions. Madhya Pradesh, Maharashtra and the Western group of the opposition Gangas. Nuclear power plant. Movement of the tribal group against the and the Bhojgai test range. Rural Women Advancement Society. Narmada Sagar Dam, Sardar Sarovar Dam, Gujarat. Save the Bhagirathi and the Stop Tihri Dam. Movement against the limestones and quarries in the Doon Valley. Uttarakhand Chipko Movement. Gumti Dam movement by the youth and the tribal groups. Oppositions. Bauxite minings in the Gandhamar Dhan Hills में. Environment movement journey in the post-independent India. Chipko movement years 1973. Place in Chamoli districts and later aid the Tehri Garhwal districts of Uttarakhand and leader the Sundar Lal Bahugudas and the Gohra Devi etc. The main demand of the people in this protected and was that the benefits of the forest, especially the right to the fodders, and should go to local peoples. And the Chipko movement gathered the momentum in 1978, and when the movements faced police firings and other the tortures. Second, Safe Silent Valley movement 1978. Silent Valley and the evergreen tropical forest in the Palakkad and districts of the Kerala's India leaders. The Kerala Sastras and the Sahityas and the Parishad and KSSP and the NGOs and the poet activist and the Sugat Kumari and played an important role in the Silent Valley Protect Aim in order to protect the Silent Valley, the most evergreen forest, from the being destroyed by other hydroelectricity project and Jungle Bachao Abhiyan Andolan year 1982. Place Singhbhum and districts of Bihar leader the tribals of the Singhbhum against the government decisions to replace the naturals and sal forest with teak. Chipko movement year 1983 and place Uttara Kannada and the Shimoga districts of Karnataka state leaders. Apiko greatest strength and lies in its the being the neither driven by other personality nor having been the formally institutionalized, and however it does have other facilitators in the Pandurang heads, and he helps the launch the movement in 1983. Aims against the feelings and the commercializations of the natural forest and the run of the against livelihood. Narmada Bachao Abhiyan NBA 1985. A place Narmada river and which flow through the state of the Gujarat and the Madhya Pradesh and Maharashtra leader Medha Patkars and Baba Amte, Adivasis farmers and environmentalists and the human rights activist, and I am a social movement against a number of the large dams and being the built across the Narmada river. Tehri Dam conflict year 1990. Place Bhagirathi river near the Tehri in the Uttarakhand and leaders the Sundar Lal Bahugoda and the protest was against the displacement of town inhabitant and the environmental consequences of the big ecosystem. Save Dihing Patkai. Year 2020 place Assam. Leader, prominent personality and like the Adi Husans and Randheep Hooda and Joy and Barua. Jada Payang and known as the Forest Men of India, members of all Assam the Student Union AASU and all the Assam's Matak Youth Student Union region. Open cast mining in 1998.59 and hectares of Dehing Patkai Wildlife Sanctuaries. Save the Sundarbans, years 2020, West Bengal region. Recent cyclone Amphan, the worst cyclone since 1737, left a trail of the misery in the Sundarbans and livelihood, where the destroyed the people and where the displaced in the embankment and where the breached and the thousands of pupils are now and solely reliant on the relief campus. Conclusion. Presently, environment movement is gaining global and prominent, and NGOs like Greenpeace and the organization like the United Nations are taking steps to save the environments on other global scales and the mitigate climate changes and different nations and are also making theirs the effort to shape the environments and developed state में sustainable example International Solar Alliance and by India and France. Question number 10. Comparing Western and the Indian model of the secularism, discuss whether the Indian concept of secularism is flow compared to the Western one. Introduction. Secularism refers to the principle of the separation of government institutions and persons mandated to the presented the state from religions institution and religion delimitates parameters and West India concept. The spheres of politics and the separated and from the spheres of religions, equal distance from all religion and rationals. In the Western religions and was all the encompassing and the church was the dominated, the state wanted to the curtail this, the authority hence the confined and religions to the private space, accommodating religion diversity and equal distance from all the religion. India West में extent separation of mutually exclusive and porous religions cannot the intervene in the matter of the politics and but the politics can the intervene in the matter of the religion. Understandings of the liberty or freedoms, intra-religion homogeneous security society and individuals freedoms, both intra and the religion individuals communities and the minority freedom. The Western model is scientific management of the public spheres and while the Indian model is based on the principle of the coexistence. The concept of secularism is not the flow but in the fact more the appropriated to the Indian context. The Western style secularism, multiple religion, Indian history. India history is other very distinct and from that of the Western states, and most of which had to the deal and with only and one the religions and before the onset of the modern nation state and legal courts etc. Deep religion diversity is an the integrated part of the India society and cultural landscapes. And second, second commitment to the multiple values and namely the liberty, equality and fraternity and not the concepts and only to the individuals and but the interpreted the broadly to cover the relative autonomy of religions community and there the equality of status in society, granting aid to the education institution on other non preferential basic and interfering in the socio-religion infrastructure that Danny equals dignity and the status to the members of their the own religions or to those of others. Examples: the ban on the untouchabilities, the example and temple entry to the everyone. Depublications and depoliticizations. The state is not the identifying and with the particulars religions and public recognition is granted to the religious committee. Some negative of the secularism. Secularism is challenging the unique cultures and practices of the times, and secularism is linked to the Christianity and i.e. Western and therefore the unsuited and to Indian conditions. And there is also a view and that the secularism and the promotes and vote bank politics. Conclusions: Indian secularism is not an the end to end in the itself and but the means to the address religious plurality and the short and to achieve peaceful coexistences of different religions. Evaluates the contribution of the Jainism and Buddhism to the Indian culture. Jainism and Buddhism developed in the 6th century are part of the Sharman tradition and which is the contradictions and to the Vedic philosophies. The life and the teaching of the Buddhas and the Mahaviras cast spells over the Indian mass in due course of time and both made a great contribution to Indian culture. Body contribution of Buddhism and Jainism to Indian culture. Contribution of Buddhism to Indian culture: art, architecture, sculptures, and painting. One of the most prominent contributions of Buddhism to Indian culture is in the state of the art, architecture, sculptures, and painting. Sanchi stupas and the decorated and with the Toranas and the Barhut stupas and Amravati stupas is one of the fine example of architecture. Biharas and the Chaityas where the built at the Sanchi and Barhut, Nalandas and Bodh Gayas and are the spectaculars and the showcase the flourishing art of the Buddhism. Gandharas, Sarnathas and the Amravati school of sculptures bear the visuals. Contribution of Buddhism to Indian cultures: the painting of Ajantas and this the reached a climax and during the Gupta era and depicted various life scenes of Buddhas. Develop of the language and literatures. Initially to reach the common people, Buddhas and preaches and his the message in the Pali language and which was the language of common peoples, and later when the Mahayana Buddhism emerged and the Buddhas and teaching were the teaches in the Sanskrit. In the Sanskrit language, the spread of the Buddhas along thus language enriched the language and sculpture and literature of the Sanskrit and Pali language. Three Pitakas were compiled in the Pali language and Buddha Charitas and by the Ashwaghoshas is written and in the Sanskrit language and to the society. Buddhism denounced the superiority of the Brahmins and on the ground of the both. As Buddha maintained, it was the karma actions and that determined the low and the high state of a beings. Thus Buddha did away and with all the social distinctions between men and the men achieved social justice and thereby help to achieve a casteless society. Admission sangha was open to men and the women alike. Populars and simple religion. The rulers and the principles of Buddhism and were very simple. Rejection of the performance of the rituals and the Brahmanism, inclusions of women and the Sudras into sanghas and made the religion simple, and this the easily attracted a large section of society. Education system. The Buddhist and Biharas monastics and where the center of education, the Biharas and monastic, and took up the teachings and work not only the monks but also for other the seekers and of the knowledge from the outside. University of the Nalandas and the Belabhi and the Vikramashilas and Jagadhal and the Udantapuri. Contact between India and the foreign countries, the Buddhism and monks and the scholars travels to many the countries, and the preachings about the teaching of Buddhas and the spread the birth of the Buddhism, and from the 3rd century BCE onward, and in the making Buddhism are the prominent religion in Asia. Moral value. The concept of the ahimsas and was its the chief contributions. Later it is becomes one of the cherished and values of our nations. Apart from this, Buddhism and the emphasis equality, love, compassion, etc., and which enables the cultivations of those values and by many the great leaders like the Gandhi, Swami Vivekananda, etc. Political view. In Buddhist sanghas and every members of the sanghas and had and the equal voice, and the workings of the sanghas was and the democratic lines, and every decisions of the sanghas was done and based on the rule of the majority. Thus Buddhism and made the opening of other new chapters to the introductions of democratic principles in the history of Indian religion orders. Contribution of Jainism to Indian cultures, art, architectures, and sculptures. The spirit of Jainism immensely and contributed to the development of temple in various parts of India. Temples and Mount Abu in Rajasthan, Parshvanatha and the Khajuraho and the Jhinanathpura, Besadhi in Karnataka. Cave temple at the Ahol Badami, Elloras and the Udayagiri hills, and are the fine contributions by Jainism to the development of cave temples. Sculptures modeling of images or the status of theirs, the Tirthankaras, and ages the largest free-standing statues of Bahubali in the Sarvana Belagola and Karnataka is other fine examples. Philosophy. It is believed in the Anekantwada and the Sayadwada and doctrine. It teaches the way and to the liberation and other part to the spiritual purity and the enlightenment. Thorough disciplined and non-violence to all the living creations. It is and the idea that the arose in reactions to the Brahmanical inscriptions rituals. Language and literatures. Prakrit language, which was followed by the Jainas and to preach the teaching of the Tirthankaras and letters and led to the development of various languages like the Marathi, Kannada, etc. Literature of the Jainism is not the only written in the Andhra Magadhian part of the Prakrit language, and but also in the Sindh Sanskrit and Kannada, Gujarat and Rajasthani, etc. Ethical code. One of the significant contribution of the Jainas is the ahimsas and cultures, and Jainism considered all living beings and not just the humans equal. Jainism says all the souls are equals and alike and have the similar natures and equal qualities. Thus, it the cultivated waits in the attitude of the equality towards all the living beings. Peaceful religious Jainism emphasizes and winnings the over your internal enemies like angers, greed, hatred, etc., rather than the waging and wars on the others. And the Mahavira said it is better to win over the self than to the win over other million enemies. Growth of trading community and Jainism and contributed a lot and to the growth of the trading community, and it first the Jainism become popular among the trader and merchant. It is the fostered brotherhood among them and who gave rise to the guild system and future and rejecting the dominant of Brahmins and caste society. Conclusion: Jainism and Buddhism and followed there the unique path and to the achieving social reforms and opposing the orthodox philosophies of that eras, and they had the significant impact on Indian culture by way of the developing unique religion, art, architectures, language, etc. Question number 12. What were the changing brought by the Bhakti and the Sufi movement in Indian society? Briefly emphasis on the contribution of any to Bhakti and the Sufi Sant introduction. The Bhakti movement originated between the 6th and the 10th century AD in the southern part of India and especially Tamil Nadu. It is spread the northward and from the end of the 15th century Sufism and entered India in the 12th centuries and with the Muslims invaders and become the populars in the 13th century, and throughout both started in the different period, and they stressed the elements of the love and the devotions as and the effective means of the realizations of God body. Changes brought by the both Bhakti and the Sufi movement in the Indian society. Equality of being. Both movement propagated equality and the brought the spirit of the universal brotherhood of man. They rejected and the social classification based on the caste, class, and gender, and against the rigidity in society. Rejection of rituals. Both movements were against the Brahminical orthodox and rituals practices, and that were the prominent by them. They despised and priest who were the acting as the middleman between the individuals and God. Mean of salvation, as both the discredited and ritualistics and practices as a means to the achieve salvations, and emphasis and devotions to God as other new means of the salvation. The ultimate goal of the both movement and was union both God with God.
विचार मोड़ा के ऊपर मोबाइल रखते हैं.
Yes, yes, a new means and of the salvations and the ultimate and goals of the both movement and was the union with God and to लगना चाहे आगे पैर में ना हाथ माथ ना दब जाए.
कितना प्यार पहला तो अच्छी लगता है. उठ गया.
Guru Shishyas and fit the Mursida tradition. They laid great the emphasis on the love as the bond and between the God and the individuals, and development of religion, language. Bhakti and the Sufi Sant preaches and their the teachings and the through the language, and that can the easily be the understood to the by common peoples, and this led to the developed of the religions and language like the Kannada, Marathi, Oriya, Bhojpuri, etc. For instance, Bangalian was used to the Chaitanyas and the Ashams, and was the popularized and by the Shankardevas in Assam. In Gujarat, the credit for the popularity and the Hindi language and goes to the Sheikh Qutub Alam and Sheikh the Ahmad Khattu. Uplift the positions of the women and the followers of the Bhakti movement, allowed both men and women to seek salvations. Mirabai and Andal, Akka Mahadevi and the Bibi Fatima, the first and the first woman Sufi Sant of India, were some women Sant Both movement also the confederated and females infanticide and the promoted the freedom of women, promoted of social services. Bhakti movement brought development services to follow humans being, and Sufi movement preaches services to humanity in services to God and development of community and kitchens and hostels and providing food and the shelters for the poor and the travelers. Unity among the Hindu Muslim, the synthesis of both Bhakti and the Sufi movement helped to bridge the gap and between the Hindu and the Muslim communities and bring them and closer to the each other. The Sant of the Bhakti movement and the Sufi Sant spread messages of the friendship and amity and tolerated peace and the equality among all. Bhakti movement contribution of the Guru Nanak. Guru Nanak was the founder of the Sikhism and is the first of the 10 Sikh gurus, and his teachings incorporated the noblest and principles of the both Hindu and the Islam's religions. And according to him, God is omnipresent and throughout and love, devotions and purity of souls. Everyone can the attain God grace and his the teachings, and where to have faith in God and continuations workshops of his names and necessary of the Guru in the workshops of God. He was against the casteism and the rituals like the bathing in the holy waters, and he advocated an equality for all the human beings and the irrespectively of the caste, gender, etc. He was against the ideals persons and ideals worships and rejected the theory of the reincarnations. He introduced the concept of the community kitchen slanger. He was the proponent of the Nirguna's school of the Bhakti movement. According to him, and good is formless, and God is the without any the attributed. And Guru Nanak never the believed in the Trinity of the God or the beliefs, and that God can be the one in the human forms. In Sikhism, he tried and to the harmonies and both the Hinduism and the Islams. And Vaishvana, he was other 12th century administrators and philosophers and poet. And Lingat and Sant in the Shiva and focused Bhakti movement. He raised social awareness through his the poetry and popularly now as the Bachnas. He introduced the new publics and institutions and such as the Anubhavas and the Mantapas and over the whole of the spiritual experience, and which welcomed and men and the women from all the socio-economically background to discuss the spirituals and the mandane and question of the life in the open. He was the propagator of the Vishishtanvata Baswanna and the literary work and include the Vachanas and the Sahityas in the Kannada language. He is also known as the Bhakti Bhandaris and the Vaishvana or the Veshvara. Contribution of Sufi Sant and the Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti. He founded the Christian Chishti orders in India. Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti and the emphasis on oneness with God and the devotions to the divine, leading the poor life and the showing compassion and the charity for the helpless and poor. He emphasized the doctrine of the unity and with the God and the rejected all the materials good as the distractions and from the contemplations of God. His sermons and inspired and millions of the Hindus and the Muslims and to move towards the path of the truth and the unity. He fulfilled the objectives of the bringing together the various castes and communities and rears the elevating and humanity from the swarms of the materialistic concern. He popularized and music the recitations and called the Sama and Mehboob I Ilahi. He kept the Chishti orders and away from the royals and court estates. Recitations of the name of God both and aloud and the silently forms the cornerstones of the Christian Chishti practice. Firadosiya, it was the only the Sufi orders and which was the founded and developed in India. It was the founded by the Sharafuddin and it was the conflict to Bihar and he composed the Maktubat and the Mulfajat literatures. The above dealt and with the lives and the teaching of Sufi Sant. Conclusion. With such long-lasting impact and gap in the society and were set the asides and the teachings ensured and restoring status to the suppressed and classes are deep and rooted to change come about to lay the foundations of other liberals and the composite Indian society. Sufism founders. Additional details. Additional details. Additional data founder in India. Khwaja Moinuddin Chishti and Suhawardi. Sagun school with attributions worships devotions of either Vishnu and his the incarnations goddess Devi Shiva. 16th century AD and 10th century in Tamil Nadu. Alvars Tamil sport and sant and devotees of the Lord Vishnu. Nayanars and the Tamil poets and sant and the devotees of Lord Shiva. They both opposed Jainism and Buddhism. 12 Alvars and 63 Nayanars. Famous one being the Thondra, Pothi and the Andal. Andal is the woman Alvar prominent text in the Nalariya Divya and the Prabandhan and written in the Sanskrit by the 12 Alvaras and is the known as Tamil Vedas. Around 12th century AD in Carnatic and the Virashvas and movement Lingayatism and was led by the Vaishnanas. And from the 13th century onwards, the Bhakti movement and gained the prominent in the northern India and list of the Sant and the others details giving in the in the latter part of book. Nayanars Tamil sports Sant and the devotees of the Lord Shivas and mainly the 63 and the Nayanars and the prominent ones and the includes the Naraikals and Anaimal and the women's Nayanars and adopted the existence. Uppers, Sambandhars and Sundars applies and collections of the poems and called the Tevan around 100th century AD. Question number 13. Explain the example the various style of the temple architecture in India and with specials and the emphasis on the Dravidian architecture introduction. The architecture style of the temple is planned and the mounded based on their religion and the ethnically and the linguistic diversities and there are the three important style of the temple architecture: Nagaras in the north and the Dravidians in the south and the Vaisharas and the independent style and the planned and blend of the Nagaras and the Dravidians models. Temple architecture in India, three style. Temple architecture in India in the three styles. Three styles: Nagara styles, Dravida styles, Veshra styles, and other styles. Nagara style: Odisha schooled, Khajurai schools, and Solanki schools. Other styles: Nayaka, Hoysalas, Vijayanagar, and Pal and Sen. Some common foundations and features of the Hindu temples. Sculptures, Garbhagriha, literatures and bomb houses and small the cubicles and with other single extras and which grow into other larger chambers and the garbhagrihas is made to the houses the main icons and extras to the temple and portico and hall for the large numbers of the worships and is now as the mandapas mountain like the spear the shape of other curving the shikhar in the north India a the pyramids towers and called other bimanas in the south India and the bahan mountain and or vehicles of the temple and main daily and along with the standard pillar or the dhwaj is placed and exile before the sanction before the sanctums. Mithun embracing couples sculptures considered as species and are placed at the entrance of the temples or on and the exteriors and wall or the between the mandhapas and the main shrines. Nagara's temple styles developed in the North Indias and it is the followed the Panchayatana styles of the temple buildings and it is had the main shrines and the subordinary shrines and laid out in the crucified patterns and with the respect to the main shrines. There is the mandap in front of the Garbhagriha and no water tank is the presented on the temple premise. The temples were the built on the raised platforms outside the Garbhagriha and images of the Gangas, Yamunas and replaced. Shikharas were three types. Latinas square at the base and the wall curves inward to other point at the top. At the top and the sanas and they had other border and base and where the shorters in the higher than the Latinas ones and the slope is the upward in other straight line and the Ballahavi. They had other rectangular base with the roof risings and into the vaulted chambers. Shikhara had other Kailas on top of it the resting on other circulars base called the Amalak and the inside the temples and the wall were the divided into the three vertical plans and the trirathas and the temple's premises had no the gopurams, gateways and boundaries wall. Kalsha, Amalkas and Nagara temples architectures and the Golan and Shikharas Dravidian temple architectures. Shikharas, stupas, bhimas, mandapas, nandi, gotpam, gavagulha. Dravidian or South Indian temple style. The Dravidian temple is enclosed within a compounded wall and the entrance gateway in its the center now as the Gopurams, the shape of the main and temple town and now as the Nas and in the Tamil Nadu. Tamil Nadu is the stepped and the pyramid that rises the up geogrammatically. There is the large water reservoirs or other temple tank enclosed within the complex subordinary shrines and are the incorporated within the main temple's towers and presented as other separated small shrine besides the main temples. Kanchipuram, Thanjore or the Tanjore, Madurai and the Kumbakonam, Tamil Nadu, where during the 8th and the 12th century the role of the temple include the religious matter as the administration center controlling the best areas of the land and palace wares of the ancient South Indian dynasty which the separated to the Odisha's borders. The early buildings were rock cut while the latter and once were the structure and the generally reflected of the regions of Mahendravardhan first and the contemporary of the Chalukyas kings and Pulkeshian Dutya of Karnataka. The shore temples at the Mahabalipurams, also known as the Raj Simhas, and who reigned from 700 to the 728 CE. Mamallapuram was named after the Narsingvarman first, also known as the Mamalla. The temple houses three shrines, two to Shiva and facing east, and the middle one of the Vishnu facing west. And there is the evidence of the water tank and the early example of the Gopurams. Sculptures of the bull and Nandi and line in the temple line the temple walls. Baserise style of the architecture and influence of the Nagaras and Dravidian style. Similar to the Nagaras, scholar shrine plan and subordinaries and shrines and the panchayat styles. Similarly to the Orissans and the temples, vestibules and connectings, the sculpture, the spectrums and the mandapas, and similarity and to the Shekhari and the Bhumija and the pillars in the NE India. Resemblance to the majorities of the temple pillars in Karnataka. Stepped diamonds and plants seen in the Chalukyas temples, Nagaras, steppings, diamonds or the satellite plains is seen in the majorities of the temple in Kalyani. The Dravidas and influences the early half of the Chalukyas era is presented in the Bimana of the Chalukyas temple in the Chalukyas temple and miniature ornament towers and wall the ornamentations and exhibitions, a mix of the Nagaras and Dravidian styles. Conclusions. Every period of Indian history produced its own the district and style and the features. The architecture style of the temple is planned and the molded and based on their the religion, ethicals and linguistics and diversity. They are example of the India rich culture heritage. Question number 14. Briefly outline the important features of the various forms of the puppetry in India and what steps have been taken at the different level to the preserve and them. The introduction. Puppetry is other forms of the theatre or the performance which involves the manipulations of the puppets. It is believed and to have its the origins 3000 years BC, and while the shadow and puppetry is in the ancient form of the storytellings and which uses the flats articulated and figures and shadow puppets to create the impressions of the moving human's body. Important feature of the various forms of the puppetry in India. Category of the puppetry in India: string puppets and shadow puppets and the globe puppets and red puppets. Kuchipudi, Kuchiputali and Kundhai and Gompataya and Bamulattam and Cholu Bamulatta and Ravan Chaya and Togalu, Gombatya and Pava, Kotha and Yampuri and Putul, Nach Odisha road puppets. Pseudo puppets feature. There are the fluid and the transparent leather or the paper cut out and fastest to one the supporting clicks and the manufacturing why aid the list to others thin stroke or rods. एग्जाम्पल्स थोलू बोमूट्राला आंध्र प्रदेश से हैं और तोगालू गोमपेटियू कर्नाटका से हैं और टोलपावा खोटू केरला से है और चमदयाचे महाराष्ट्र बहुल्या से है और रावणाचाया उड़ीसा से है और तोलमा बोमल तमिलनाडु से. It is all about the judgings and the perfect balance and between the lights and the screen and the correct manipulations of both and build the result in the project of the gorgeous silhouette and the colorful shadows in Karnataka's and the traditional form of the shadows puppetries and puppets size and reflected the social status of the characters and that they play. Larger puppets are for the royals and the religious members while the smaller and puppets and depict the common pupils and the servants. The performance begins it's the night and the continues till dawns and the invocations to the Hindu god Ganeshas and the goddess Saraswati signal the start of the show. String puppets features. The puppets are made of the wood and the long flowing the decorative skirts and hide the legs. पुटल नाच असम में होता है, गोमबेत्या कर्नाटका में होता है, कलासूत्री बहुतिया महाराष्ट्र में होता है और गोटा लीला कुंडई उड़ीसा में होता है और कठपुतली राजस्थान में होता है और बोमल तमिलनाडु में. A puppet is manufactured by the stick and the usually 5 to the 7 attached to the rectangular wooden control. In Odisha, the end of the string and are tied to the rectangular wooden frame or to the horizontal bar. In the Rajasthan, they are the simply loops and around the puppeteers and figures and string. The puppets are the assumed to the predate the Indian classical theatres. The numbers of the string can vary according to the traditional more and string translates into the major and more complex range of the attainable movement. Road puppets feature and examples. Road puppets are and the expansions of the globes and puppets and but are the often and much the larger and the supported and the manipulated and by the roads and from the below the techniques used in the controlling thus the puppets and bring about the highly theoretical experience. Putul Nach West Bengal and Kathi Kanthe Odisha and Yampuri Bihar. Hand and globe puppets features. This is a type of the puppetry and where the puppets and hand is the illuminates inside the puppet and its the movement are acted and out by his the fingers and usually the 4 fingers and becomes the head of the puppets and the thumbs and the third fingers act as its 2 hand. पबा काठू केरला संबंधित है होता शाखी कुंडेल नेता उड़ीसा से और बेनी पुटोल बंगाल से संबंधित है. स्टेप टू द रिवाइव एंड द मॉडर्नाइज पपेटरी आर्ट. Government level grant housing, health and the pensions for the seasons artistics in various oral art forms, ensuring health coverage and to the artist under the Ayushman Bharat or the central government health scheme, financial support from the corporation house NGOs etc. Puppetry Academy and Kerala's government opened the Puppetry Academy at the Kozhikode on the World Puppetry Day and recently to the provided training and the research in the art of the puppetry. Advertisement of the forthcomings and puppetry shows through the newspapers and mobiles, SMS and the medias and the social medias and can help the enhances the footfalls and word World Kathputli and days on 21 March. 21 March and helped to the popularized the Kathputli and cultures across the world. Promotions in popular cultures and Rajasthan. Kathputli and puppets was used in the Hindi cinema Paheli. Investing in digital infrastructure that can help the artists and take their the works online. Tripuras and Puppets and Thread is using the YouTubes to the launch and new puppets videos and for the COVID-19 awareness in the community. Sajis Pulavars and revived the Lether puppets of Kerala's by the automatings and it using the robotics. It using the robotics and workshops and for the spreadings and puppets arts and special sessions on the drawing movement and mind creative writings and creative speeches dialogues deliveries and voice modulations are also organization for participating to enhance their the communication skills outreach activities in the other countries. The government has the organized festival of India abroad and the Namaste India in the countries like the Senegals and Cote d'Ivoire and the Liechtenstein and Korea and the Ukraine and Chikuti dolls and from the flood and the averaged and Kerala's have now the becomes are the global mascot. International Puppets Festival in India. Puppeteers and from the around the world and the where aid the Dhatu International Puppets Festival in the Bangalore in 2019. Puppeteers and from the every corners of India and the other countries like the Italy, Turkey and the US came and together to the showcases and their the amazing storytelling ability. Ishara International Puppets thread the festival in Delhi and gave the exposures and to the largest audience and the change to the perform with the 3D artists and from the across the globes in 2018 conclusion. The government could also the invest in other school of the puppetry and where the people interested in the craft can take the courses and which could also mean providing and the additional employment and opportunity for the puppeteers. Question number 15. What do you understand by the regionalism and does it the essentials and lead to the decentralization of power and sustainability? And your answer and with the relevant and example introduction regionalism and in the is the expansions of the common sense of the identity and the purpose by the peoples and within other specific geographical religions united and by the its unique language and cultures language etc which resulted and in the excavations and attachment and to one the religions and the sometimes and can be either threat and to the unity and the integrity of the country body. Decentralization of power it is means the sharing decisions making the authorities and with the lowest levels of institutions and organizations. Yes, religionism and does leads to the decentralization of power religionism at the local level. Example 73-74 CAA Panchayat Raj and urban local bodies where the resulted of the raising regionals aspiration and involvement of pupils in the grassroots decisions making. Fifth and sixth schedules the basic thrust of the fifth and the sixth schedules of the constitution is the protection of the cultural and distinctiveness of the tribals, rise of the regional parties and political parties and like the DMK and the Aidam and the Akali Dal and Telugu Deshams and Assoms and Ghana Parishad and etc. have the incorporated and religions regionalism and to have the decentralizations of power from the central and parties and there the politics is based on the regional aspirations, safeguardings and use of the local language and cultures in the name of safeguarding local language and culture regionalism leading to the leads to the decentralization of power. Example Kodavas and Karnataka. Religion movements and have the help the arts and the cultures of many neglected religions and to the flourish by the increasing there the imposures and the through the local emphasis and decentralizations of the power furthers and leads to the nationals integrations and rationalism is not the significant and merely as other disintegrating disintegrating forces regionalism and stresses the development of other regionals and the national integrations and example role of the DMK in Tamil Nadu providing employment and it is the further help in the socio-economics development of the regions and example development of the Kalyans Karnatakas and regions and reservations of seats for local peoples in tribal areas and promotes the sense of the pride in the connecting to the one root and the culture and it has been the noted that the often regionals and movements have the helped the arts and the culture of many the neglected the regions and to the flourish by the increasing there the exposures and through the local emphasis demand for the regionals and the autonomy within other states and in the some stated pupils and belonging to the various regions and have been the demanding and recognitions of their the regional identities. An example Kodavas in Karnataka, the groups of the status and joins hands to take the common standard and on the issues of the mutuals and interested bees and the another group of the states and over at the times and against the union examples and northeastern states. However, regionalism and can the also the leads to the regionalism and sometimes and borders and sub the nationalism and the which can the created the separatist and the tendencies and religious regionalism and can become other sheet and for the military militancy and the extremist to create and the internal security threat the lead and to the less exciting of power and example the Kashmir military issues and discriminations in the certain cases and it developed other supremacy and complex in the mind of the peoples and who have the have other place for many the years and the gifts them afflictions of the ownerships and over the reasons and thus the leading to the sons of the soils and tendencies in incidences of the exclusions and of the peoples of the northeast from the Bangalore regional groupings leads to the BS of the powers and the uniquels and the development of different reasons lead to the development of the theft of the left wings and extremists and examples northeastern part of India and too much the regionalism and lead to the takings power into the hands and example agitations and the Maharashtra and against the migrants and from the North India for the taking of job and especially and for the state of the UP and Bihar the discriminating based on the language. Conclusion. The formation of the Niti Ayog and have been either positives and steps and towards the enhancing cooperative federation and including reducing the parochials and regionalism and by the fostering the involvement of the state government of India in the economic policy making the process using other bottom and up the 60 up the approach schemes like the Ek Bharat Shresth Bharat have been the launch and by the GOI to celebrated unity in the diverse culture of the nations. Question number 16. Bring out the Question number 16. Bring out the reason for the prevalence of the child marriage in India and will the raising of the legal age of the marriage for the girls and help the mitigates the issues discussions. Child marriage in India is the defined as the marriage and the solemnized and between the two pupils and where the female is below the age of the 18 years and or the male is below the age of the 21 years. India is the home. India is the home and to the largest numbers of the child marriages in the world and accounting for a third of the global totals as per the UNICEF. Main body status of the child marriage and in India and child marriage is the widespread across India with nearly the half of the marriages as the girls and while there has been a decline in the incidence of the child marriages nationalism from the 54% in the 1992 and 1993 and to 33% and totally and in nearly all states and the pace of the changes and remains the slow, especially for the girls and the gaps age groups and 15 and 18 14% of the world and 16 million and child marriages and take places in India according to the national family health survey. Percentage of the women marriages before the age of the 18. बिहार राजस्थान सबसे पहले बिहार में है चाइल्ड मैरिज, फिर राजस्थान, फिर झारखंड, फिर उत्तर प्रदेश, फिर वेस्ट बंगाल, फिर महाराष्ट्र, फिर छत्तीसगढ़, फिर मध्य प्रदेश, महाराष्ट्र, छत्तीसगढ़, महाराष्ट्र, उड़ीसा और सबसे आखिरी गुजरात में सबसे कम है. Reasons for the prevention of the child marriages in India. Cultural traditional practices. The practice of the child marriages in the northern India is closely associated with the Piyush and the occasions such as the Akka Teej in the Rajasthan and Devan. Mass child wedding and tax and places in many the district and however the administration failed to stop thus the weddings and due to the social pressure, economic of marriages. Girls are the often seen as other liability and with other limited economic role in poor the community and marriage of other daughters and means one less the mouth. The high demand for the dowry and puts and the pressures on the families to the marry the girls yearly. Safety and security issued ESP in the rural and the tribal areas. Lack of the education a big the determinant of the age of the marriages is education. Around 45% of the women and with no education and 40% and with primarily education married and before the age of the 18 and according to the NFHS 4. Patriarchal attitude. Child marriages is often seen as a defense and against the premarital sex and the duty and to the protect the girls and from the sexual violence and the harassment is the transparent from the fathers to the husband. And decline sex ratio in rural part of the northern India, particularly in Rajasthan, and the decline sex ratio has been allowed the growth of other practice known as the atta sata, where the daughter is the exchange for other daughters-in-law and the irrespectively of her age. Ineffective implementation of the law and lack of the proper age of the documents and overall lack of the protection for the human rights of the children along with the effective implementation of laws like the PCMA in 2006 is also the major hurdles in the eliminating child marriages. Recently, the cabinet has approval increasing the marriages age of the women from the 18 to the 21. If the implemented, it will bring the age of the marriages for the both men and the woman 8 per reason. Government decided to the re-examine the age of the marriages for the women for other numbers of the reason including the genders neutrality and yearly age of the marriage and consequences. Early pregnancies also have the impact and on the nutritionals and the development and levels of the mothers and their the children's and their the overall health and the mental well-beings, and how the raising the age will help to the curb and child marriages and increasing the marriage and will the delay the woman responsibilities and which is the attached to the marriage. In many the traditional society and women age the marriages and act the stimulatory as the gateway to new families and roles and the likelihood and of the producing the offspring, and thus the increasing the marriage age and will the delay the responsibles and gave the change to the women for the self development and ensuring the gender equalities in the marriage age increasing the minimizing age of the marriages for the females to 21 years, ensure the gender equality as the legal marriages age for the same males is already 21 years. Different ages of the marriages promotes the stereotypes and that the wife must be the younger than there's the husband, outlaws child marriages and prevent the abuse of minors, and the laws prescribes the minimum age of the marriages to the essentials, and the law outlaws child marriages and prevent the abuse of minors. Enormous benefits on social economic funds and include the lowering maternal mortality ratio (MMR) and improvement of the nutrition levels and more opportunities for the women and to the pursue higher education and careers according to other resource note by the SBI and Eco Reps. Limitation of the measures to the curb the child marriages. Limitation success of the legal measures in the past. NFHS 5 and 2019 and 21 the prevent of the under age marriages and remains the height with 23 of the women between the 20 and the 24 years of the age marriages before the age of the 18 and 8 the same times. The detections of the such marriages and remains low and with only the 785 and cases registered under the law in 2020. Law cannot be the shortcuts toward the social reforms. For example, it is the found that the decline in the child marriages and was not the result and for low penalizing and it as the much as the more women and getting the education and the employed and low without the wide and societals and supports the often fail to the delivers, and even when they are the statement of the objects and reasons and aims for the largest public good and in other traditional society. Introduction modern reforms and does not the always and delivers and positives result, and rather it is the result in the rampant and prevents of actions illegally possibles and increase of sex selection selective abortions, increasing the legal marriages age without the changing patriarchal and social norms can result in the patient feeling even more the burdened by what they view as and the additional responsibility of the girl child, and which in the terms and could lead to in an increase in the sex selective practices. Impoverished families and may choose the child marriages to reduce the expenses. Girls and who marry the young and lack the educational and economical opportunity. Child marriages perpetual cycles of poverty. Child marriage are more likely and to the remain in poverty. Conclusions. One should not addresses a problems and immediately by the legislations, and one needs to the understand the core societal issues. Girls needs to the get equal opportunity in terms of the health, education and the living bringing in the more women to the workforces, and likes in the South Koreas and Japans, and can also help to improve gender imbalance and the solve issues of early marriages. Additional details. How to the curb incidences of child marriages, investing in girls and education according to the MFHS. For the medians and age of the marriage increased from the 17 to 0.2 years for the women, and with no the schoolings to the 22.7 years for the women, and for 12 or the more years of the schoolings. Economic and social empowerment of the girls and financial empowerment often the gives individuals the greater says in there's the households, and there's the one future gives girls the availability to say no to the yearly marriage, and the families won't see them as other liability. Targeted social and the behavior changes and the communication SBCC and comparison social norms, and that the include girl and the boys from the marriage and related to the decisions making needs to changes the insurance registration of marriages. The government must develop the mechanism to ensuring that all the marriages including civil, religious and the consultomary and union birth and the death are the mandatory registration through the system as other means to the track marriages and the age of the marriages. Question number 70 discuss the effective of the population control measures in India will decrease the population leads to the better standard of living and critically analysis. Introduction. India population is the 17.5% of the global population, but only the 2.4% of the land areas according to the UN Department of the Economic Social Affairs estimated, and India's populations and will reach the 1.5 billion by 2013 and body. Additional detail background. Population control the measures, and India was the first country in the world and to the introduce family plannings in 1951, and the since then it is the introduced many the measures to control the population. A population policy committee was established in 1952, and however the policies framed in the early 50s and were the largely arbitrary and so no the successful. In the second 5-year plan, the numbers of the families plannings and the clinical clinics and increased, but most of them and were in the urban areas, and so did not the provided adequate resulted, and governments established other family plannings and department and promoted the adoptions of property during the third 5 years plan and 1976 population policy. Its main the features includes increasing the minimizing legals age of the marriages of marriages for girls and the boys to the 18 and the 21 respectively. Monetary incentives for the birth control into improving the literacy levels of the females both the through the formals and non-formal channels, and forced sterilizations was the permitted, and which was the later on the given up the population was the made as other factors, and for the sharing center resources and with that of the state, and leaking the 8% of the center assistance and to the state plans, and by the waitings the performance of the state in the family welfare programs in 1993, and the experts group under the chairmanship of the MS Swaminathan was the concluded and to the formulated a national population policy. It is the finally resulted in the national population policy 2000. It is man's focus was to the bring the totals and the fertility rate and TFR and to the replacement level by the 2010, and achieve the goal of the population stability and by the 2045. Effectiveness of the population control measures. Achievement total fertility rate, and according to the recently released the National Family Health Survey 5 and TFR and has the come down and below the threshold and 8 which the population is expected to the replace and itself the from one generation to the next, and after TFR and was second in the 2019-21 and just below the replacement fertility and rate of the 2.1. Today, as many as the 23 states and the union territories and including and all the states in the south regions and already have fertility below the replacement and level of the 2.1, and the children's and per woman's use of the contraceptic impressed and the according to the NFHS and 5 the overall contraceptives and prevalences rate and CPR has increased substantially and from the 54% and to the 67% at the all India's levels and in the almost all phase second states and UTS with and the exceptions of Punjab. The use of the modern method of the contraceptives and has also the increase in almost all the state UTS. Decline in the decadals and growth, the decadals growth and rate of the populations and has the decline from 21.54 and in the 1999 and 2000 to the 17.64% during the 2001 and 2011 and a decline in the crude birth rate the crude and the per and 1000 pupils in the India and was the reported at the 17.44% in the 2020 and which was the 23.2% in the 2000 according to the World Bank World Bank and the adolescent and fertility and rate United Nation and defined and the adolescent and fertility rate and AFR annuals numbers of the birth and to the women aged and 15 and 19 years per the 1000 women. Adolescent pregnancy in the India has seen the quite other change in the past decades, although there has been a steady decline in India the adolescent and the fertility rate issue. The population controlled measures in India have been the often criticism and due to their the poor effectiveness. Population is the difficult and to the control as it is not only the dependent on the policy interventions and but also the national economic education and social conditions. Narrow perspectives and India population control the measures and bear the mainly focus on the contraceptions and the sterilizations and while the encouraging as it is not only the dependent on the policy and the intervention but also the nations and the economically education and social conditions and narrow perspectives and India population control the measures and where the mainly and the focused on the conceptations and fertility and where the ignoring the importance of the poverty elimination improving the standard of the living and the spirit of education not published. On the national level, population control policy was not the publicized and failed to the generated mass the support and the awareness in the favor of the population control. Also, during the time of the emergency, the use of the courses also the causes serious resentment and public outcry and made it the unpopular among the masses. Insufficient infrastructures. India, owing to the lack of the trained staff and the limited use on the measures and of the equipment for the population controls and failed to the achieve the desires and the objectives and voluntary natures the family's welfare program in India is the voluntary in the natures and which the enables couples to the decided the size of the their family and adapt the family planning and method best the schedules to the them according to their the choice and without any the compensations international obligations and India was the signatory and to the programs of the actions POA and of the International Conference on the Populations and Development 1994 and which was the uniquely and against the core CLs in families plannings relations and between the decreasing populations and the standard of living. Better standard of living and decrease the population is supposed to the provided a better standard of living in the following ways: an increase in the GDP and per capita. GDP per capita is and the approximately an indicators of the averages living the standard for the individual prosperities. A decline in the population means and the increase in the GDP and per capita since the resources available per the individuals and increase. better healthcare increased and the access and to the education and the equality and the quality infrastructure is the available and for the individuals and which in the terms and has the positives and the implications on in the individuals and standard of living. A decline in population will the reduce and the underemployment and the distinguished and employment and leading to the growth in income, and this is the hypothetical situation, but in the real and world and the standard of the living is not merely independent and on the declines in population. How events moderately and low fertility and the population and decline the favors the borders and the material standard of living. Other issues showing population growth and may the heart and the discovery of the new ideas and the lead and to the economic growth and generating dependent population. Decline in population can lead to and the increase in the dependent population and other fail in the working age populations, and for the instead in Japan's the elderly population has the growth and significant finding, and for the progress for the retired, and if the ratio of the working age populations and to the retired and population declines, and also it will lead to other decline in the demand and for the basic services and infrastructure leading and to the in employment in thus the sectors and the resulting in other decline in the standard of the livings, and for the purpose dependent on these sectors. Conclusion: India needed to adopt other holistic policies to better wrap the benefits of the demographics and dividend, and the prepares itself for the challenging lying ahead, and such as the scared females and the child sex ratio migration, geriatrics rares except. Thank you guys.